Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1476B, and today's date is January 19th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Greatest Push to Start World War III Has Just Begun. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, a couple of reports ago, we talked about how everything's going to be thrown into chaos. The cabal, the deep state, they're going to get so worried that they're going to push agendas to create chaos, maybe have false flags, try to bring us to war, and we'll be talking about that in a little bit. And we can see why this is all happening, because there are investigations happening everywhere. Uranium One, Clinton emails, FISA, we have the Trump dossier from Fusion GPS, the pedo ring. All this is coming out right now. Slowly but surely, all of this is coming out. Now, we need to understand that Obama, Susan Rice, and many others were involved in spying on President Trump. And when he came out with this, everyone said this is crazy. The corporate media was bashing him. And we can see that a classified memo has been given to members of Congress that might just prove Trump has been telling the truth all along. And remember, he has all this information. He knows what has been going on. This is why the cabal, the deep state, are so worried. One and the same. This is why they're so nervous. Actually, the central banks are very nervous because they realize he has the information now. He knows the truth of what is going on. Now, the memo was revealed on Thursday, when Republican members of the House Intelligence Committee voted to release it to all members of the House. It was then that the eyes began to open to how bad the corruption truly was in the Obama administration Department of Justice. Remember, when something is too good to be true and the corporate media doesn't do any type of investigative reporting and nothing ever comes out and everything just looks fantastic and everything that's being said to us is always the opposite, there's something wrong. And we knew it all along. GOP lawmakers, well, they are demanding that this 4-page memo be released to the public because it reveals something that the government has been doing. Actually, we know that the FISA court system was set up not to spy on foreign powers. It was set up to spy on people here in the United States. Government officials, judges, used for blackmail to trap people. That's what it was used for. And what we're seeing is that this is what this memo supposedly says. And when we're looking at this, congressmen, they are shocked. I don't know why they're shocked, because we all knew this the whole entire time. We knew this is what was being done. Now, this is going to implicate, if it is what we think it is, all of these individuals and what they've been doing. Now, this is just the tiny little part of the bigger picture of what these government officials, and I don't care, Republican, Democrat, makes no difference whatsoever. These people had been using government, the system, to make themselves very wealthy, to spy on different officials, judges, you name it, to blackmail them to get their way, and they've been corrupt from the very beginning. And it is all falling apart. This might even shut down Mueller's investigation. And we can see right now that when this comes out, this most likely is going to be a huge bombshell. Now, we know the cabal, deep state, they are very nervous about everything, and they're trying to get rid of certain people, by offing them. And we can see right now that Seth Rich, he was murdered, and we know it was from most likely the Clintons. And Jack Burman, a well-known conservative lobbyist who made headlines by offering a $130,000 reward for information on the murder of Seth Rich, was sprayed with caustic substance by a professional masked attacker outside his Virginia home. And we know, according to Q, there was a 187 hit put on Seth Rich, which allegedly came from Wasserman Schultz, which was tied to the Clintons. And again, nobody wants a real investigation of this. And we can see by Jack Burman getting attacked, they are very nervous. They're trying to scare, and if they have to, they will off anyone that gets in their way. They're not just going to lay down and say, hey, we're done here, thanks a lot. They're going to fight back, because guess what? They're never, ever going to allow themselves to stand trial. They will try to flee. They might even commit suicide, or they will do something else to harm other people, to distract everyone from what is really happening. And that is what is happening right now. And this is why we're seeing this push, this gigantic push for World War III. Now, CNN and other corporate media stations have been pushing the idea that from Trump's physical, that he might have a heart attack. Now, let's think about this for a second. Why are they pushing that agenda so hard, that he might have a heart attack? Well, if we go back many years, there was a court hearing because the CIA had a heart attack gun, which it makes it look like people have natural heart attacks. Yes, this is real. Actually, they even improved it now. And there's probably other methods that we don't even know about. Now, what gets me very concerned is that the corporate media is continually saying that he's ripe for a heart attack. Now, he had a physical. He's not mentally impaired, so that whole impeachment thing went down the tubes. How else do you get rid of him? Well, you can try using a bullet, an assassination attempt, but this is very difficult, and all fingers will be pointed at certain individuals, the intelligence agency. If he has a heart attack that looks absolutely natural, well, it was all over the corporate media, people will believe it, and boom, everything's said and done, they got rid of him. And that looks like that might be part of their agenda. Russia is out there, and this is coming from the Russian Foreign Ministry. The Russian Foreign Ministry is accusing the United States of covert transfer of money assets to opposition groups in Russia, part of Soros, part of the cabal, trying to push some type of major riots during the 2018 elections in Russia. Now, we know they've done this before in other countries. Remember, the cabal deep state, they are not finished yet. They're still working towards their goal of a world dominance. They want to get rid of all these individuals that are against them. And they haven't stopped. We see that North Korea, they've canceled the planned visit of a delegation to South Korea to prepare for next month's Winter Olympics. And this came from Seoul, which reported on this, saying that yes, it was canceled. Now, was this a fake report, or was this a real report? Did they really cancel and they don't know the reason why they canceled? Well, there was some intel that was out there. A report that said there might be some type of an event if both sides met. Now, where did this message come from? Was this the cabal, the deep state, planning to have something happen while the delegation met? So they canceled it temporarily. Maybe it's still on, but right now they canceled it to see what might have occurred, what event might happen if they met. Because remember, the cabal, the deep state, they are pushing for a world war. They are pushing everywhere. North Korea, they're pushing in Syria very, very hard. We'll be talking about that in a minute. And we can see that this is what they're doing. They're not going to stop. Actually, we're going to see more and more of these pushes. We're going to see events, just like the drone attack on the Russian bases. And we know that was a CIA op. to try to get Turkey involved in this, and they're trying to get Turkey involved in this once again. Now, we understand that Tillerson was out there saying, yeah, we're not putting the Kurdish troops as a border guard against Syria and Turkey on the border. We're not doing that. It was misrepresented. That was misinformation. Tillerson was out there and Trump was out there saying that we respect the sovereignty of Syria. Now remember, go back in time with Obama. Everything that he was saying that was out in the corporate media was always the opposite. Everything that Trump is saying, he's using the same tactics. We're going to war. Remember, a lot of this stuff is not out in the corporate media. A lot of the other headlines like, we got a button that's bigger than Kim Jong-un's button to fire nuclear weapons. What he's doing is saying things, but what he's doing behind the scenes is the opposite. So when he's talking about war, he's talking about peace. When Obama was talking about peace, he was talking about war. And what we're seeing right now is the cabal, the deep state, they are pushing very, very hard because they want a war. Now, what's very interesting, the corporate media is saying that there's 30,000 fighters deployed to the border, and this is the Kurdish Democratic Union Party, and they're saying that's where they are. They're up there, and they're going to be separating Syria. Now, Turkey is saying, well, there's not really 30,000 fighters. There's about 1,000 fighters that have been pushed to the border. Now, remember, the cabal controls the Kurd area. They have their paid mercenaries, they have the moderate rebels, they have all of this. So there's a little bit of a misrepresentation, misinformation that the corporate media is putting out there. And it looks like the corporate media, along with the intelligence agencies, with the cabal, it looks like they're pushing this idea that this might be much, much bigger than it really is. Now, there was a report that Russian troops will be leaving the area to let Turkey come in and fight in this area. Now, Russia is saying we're not withdrawing from the Afrin area, which is the Aleppo's northwestern countryside. We're not leaving this area as of yet. And they're saying that we're sitting tight. Why? Because we're talking to Turkey. And this is where it gets really, really strange. Because the corporate media, and you see it in different places, saying that the Turkish army allegedly tried to enter the Afrin area. This is the northwest area of Aleppo. And they're saying that they're starting the invasion. But this is where it gets weird. Turkey's army chief is headed to Moscow to talk to Russia about the planned Turkish offensive against the Syrian Kurdish controlled area. And they're having a meeting. They didn't make any decisions as of yet. And he's still there. But the corporate media is saying that they're invading. Now, this is why they might be saying this, or that the Turks are shelling the Kurdish area. Now, when we look at this closely, they left part of the story out here. The moderate rebels, they began firing 120 millimeter mortar rounds into the Kurdish region. Then the Kurdish troops there started to shell back. And I think this is where the story came from, where Turkey's just firing and they're starting the offensive. Now, the thing that is very interesting is that Tillerson said, listen, we don't have forces going up there. This is misportrayed, misrepresented, misinformation. And it looks like there's still fragmentation within government where we still, and we know we still have the cabal, the deep state, controlling certain aspects of what is happening here. And then we have the Trump administration, the Patriots, that are working on the other side. And when we look at the entire situation, we can see that the cabal, the deep state, they are pushing their agenda very hard. Now, they don't care how the war gets started. They don't care if they fire first and they get Turkey involved. But Russia is very cool. They don't want a skirmish. They don't want war. They don't want anything like that. So will they tell Turkey to invade? That doesn't fit into their pattern of what they normally do, because they like to look at the entire situation, get real data to see what is really happening, because I think right now we've been fed misinformation and people are going off of this, but they want this out there because they're trying to start World War III. This is the greatest push we're going to see. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger because what is happening right now? One, the economy is completely falling apart. Their system is coming down. Their funds are going to be drying up. Two, the truth is being pushed out there. And if you notice, this distraction is out there while they're looking at the FISA memo, which is going to implicate certain individuals. And every time this stuff happens, they push even harder. North Korea, you can see it out there. Now, if we look at what Q has been saying, and I just picked out certain parts here, he talked about FISA. He says, do we trust the FISA judges? No, we don't. He said there's going to be false flag attempts. And it looks like the North Korea, them canceling, that might have been an attempt to get something started. In Syria, an attempt. He talks about Judgment Day. And I think Judgment Day is coming when all this truth comes out and people learn the truth. And these people are then judged by the people of the United States because they're put on trial, or, people start to learn the truth and they're learning what is really happening here. And I've said this in the past, when people start to learn this, and this is why it couldn't all be dumped at the same time, had to be very, very slow, build up to get people used to certain ideas that, hey, look, sexual harassment in Hollywood, then it's sexual harassment in the government. That will lead then to the pedophile rings as they slowly introduce certain evidence to that. Talked about FISA, talked about spying, talked about the Obama administration unmasking. That was all preparatory for the real information, the solid proof to come out to show that, yes, this is what's been happening. And it takes a while for this to get out here. Remember when you had your Great Awakening? And in the beginning, people are angry. You can't believe. You shut your ears. You don't want to hear it. It makes no sense because I've been living in an illusion, and I kind of like the illusion for the time being, but I knew something was wrong. It's almost like the Matrix, actually. And you learned about it, and you were angry at first, and then the anger went away. You wanted to find out more information. Why were they doing this? How could they do this? How did they get away with it? This is what's going to happen to the country. And people are not going to be able to take it. I mean, we saw what happened when Trump was elected. How these people were crying on the street, how they couldn't handle it, and they had marches and they had Antifa out there where people joined in and they destroyed things. The same thing's going to happen, but it's going to be much, much worse. Now, these individuals in the cabal, the deep state, Obama, Clintons, and the rest, they don't want this to happen. What they want is something completely different. They want a distraction. They want something to occur where none of this gets out. Remember prior to 9/11 when there was about $2 trillion missing from the Pentagon? Well, there was never any investigation because there was a distraction from it all. Again, that wasn't the only reason 9/11 happened, but that was one of the reasons. Same thing again, but this time it might be different because I don't think they're in full control. And we can see that they have the power to create distractions or false flag events in different parts of the world because the intelligence agencies, they have their paid mercenary army, and they have the ability to do these things because they're interwoven and they've had control over these areas for a very long time. So we might see certain things happen out there, or maybe even here in the United States. But the chaos is going to grow now. It's going to get bigger and bigger. And it's going to lead up to a major false flag, because they do not want to go to jail. They do not want to stand trial. They want everyone to forget about this, and they want the records destroyed if they can. So we're going to go through a very bumpy 2018, and it's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.